Hey everybody, it's Stephanie Ward of fireflycoaching.com, and today I'm here with Dr. Marcia Goddard, and she's going to talk to us about her marketing in her business. But first, let me tell you about Dr. Marcia Goddard. I'm going to read her bio. She is a neuroscientist on a mission. She left academia a number of years ago to focus on building bridges between science and business. Her specific expertise is work floor behavior. How do you create a company culture that allows people to thrive? For the past year, she has used neuroscientific insights to help organizations grow. Topics on which she consults include diversity, equity, and inclusion, mental health and well-being, recruitment, performance management, learning and development, and high performance culture. Marcia is an award-winning science communicator and experienced keynote speaker. TED Talk. And she's able to bridge the gap between science and business. She speaks on a range of topics, but always with a brainy twist. Neuroscience is the foundation of everything she does. Her mission is to break stereotypes. Science is everywhere, and it doesn't have to be boring. So welcome, Marcia.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you here. We've talked a little bit before we started recording, and you've been on this really remarkable journey. And I want to preface before I ask you to tell about your story with the fact that when I invited you to be on the podcast to talk about marketing, you're like, well, nothing to say because I don't do marketing. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you do because you're successful. Maybe you just don't think of it that way. So would you tell us how you got started with your journey from transitioning from part-time to full-time, and along the way, how you were marketing your business?
Yeah, sure. So I was in academia first. I was an assistant professor, and I decided that I wanted to go into the business world. And at first, I just did that by applying well, I didn't actually apply for a job. I got my job by saying yes to anybody who wanted to have a cup of coffee with me, which is sort of a hint at what my marketing strategy probably still looks like.
Okay.
One of the people that wanted to have coffee with me was the owner of a large recruitment agency, and he gave me a job. He said, I don't know what I can do with you, but I think your background and your knowledge is interesting, so I'm just going to give you a job. And when I got that job, I kind of started my entrepreneurial journey on the side, because I noticed that people were starting to come to me. The organization itself found me interesting as well from the perspective of science communication using neuroscience in recruitment. So I was with their marketing team a lot. They put me on stage at client events. They would put me in their they had this magazine that they put out. So I would be out in the media representing them. But because of that, people would come to me, be like, so what exactly is it that you do? And can you help us with that maybe? So I kind of started, I guess you could call it a side hustle. I think that's the right word for it. I started as a side hustle, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I had a couple of other jobs in between, but at one point I was like, I think I'm ready to do this full time, because I built a network sort of organically. I was asked for keynotes a lot, which turned out to be my main strategy for marketing myself. So I thought, let's just see where it goes. And so far, so good.
Okay, so you've said so many interesting things I want to pick up on there. You were doing marketing for the company you're working for. So that was for your job.
Yeah.
And have you always just felt a natural affinity with speaking and being out there and being in front of groups? Has it just been a natural thing for you?
Yeah, that's been the case since I was small. I never had stage fright. I always loved presenting things, and I loved being on stage. And when I was still in academia, I won a science communication competition, which kind of told me, okay, apparently I'm able to explain complicated matter in a way that's entertaining for people. I won because I sang a song, for example, when I started my talk, which is something that jury didn't expect.
I guess not. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I've always been comfortable on stage, and now, when I started talking about, I love the brain. I'm in love with the brain. I'm in love with what I do. And I think that passion, that's what people always tell me. It shows. My passion shows when I'm on stage. I just really enjoy it. So using that skill, honing that skill, and using it as a way to grow my network has been really, really valuable.
That's amazing. And that's a great point for everyone to pick up on, is that you do what fits for you, do what feels right for you. Some people are really comfortable on stage and being in front of people, and some are, more behind the scenes with writing. So that was getting you out in front of people from your job, and then that attracted other people from your side hustle to come and do talks, and also meeting people, these coffees. so I would call that a marketing strategy, that's speaking. Tell us what happened after you decided to go full time. Did you continue just speaking, or did you start using other marketing activities?
Well, to answer your first question first, yes, I still do a lot of keynotes. They're part of my, actually now I get paid to do them. So they're part of my job now, which I
Love
think,
it.
yes, that's really, that's a good thing for me. But I still use them. And sometimes I still do speaking engagement for free if it's like, okay, there's a really interesting audience here that can really be good for my network. So I kind of try to find a balance between the two. I've tried other ways of marketing. I'm very active on LinkedIn, or at least I say I'm very active. I don't, I still need to be more disciplined about it. I will be the first one to admit that, but LinkedIn is my main source of online communication. I can write articles there. I love writing. I can post videos there. So I use LinkedIn, and I've tried, I've seen friends who are incredibly successful using Instagram, but I tried, but I really couldn't get myself to really. There were two things for me there. One is quantity over quality. I just don't have the motivation to post that much. And you really need that in order to get the algorithm to work for you. And secondly, I've noticed that for me, the most comfortable way to market myself is to share knowledge, to go a little bit in depth about the neuroscience or the psychology and explain a concept in a way. It's engaging, but it is kind of sort of more long form. And Instagram is about visuals. It's about putting a picture of yourself. I don't want to see myself in a picture every single day. That's not me.
Okay, I love it that you tried something and that you decided it's not for you. And that's fantastic. With marketing, you don't have to do all the things. In fact, you shouldn't do all the things, and not just continuing because you think you should or other people are doing it. So that's great that you let that go. When you talk about LinkedIn, just in general, are you posting once a week, once a month? Like, I know.
Yeah. You caught me at a bad time now.
Okay.
I'm a little bit of a funk right now. But that's also because I'm about to go on vacation. So my mind has already flown to Florida and I'm already there. My physical body is still in the Netherlands.
Okay.
But I try to post once or twice a week is what I try to do. I want to go to 4 times a week. But
wow, okay.
I have this barrier where I'm like, no, I don't know if people want to read about this. And I really, people around me always say, you need to let that go. You need to just do it because everything that you share is valuable. But I post at least once every 2 weeks because I'm a huge Formula One fan, and almost all of my content is related to Formula One. So I write a race report after each race, and there's a race every 2 weeks, sometimes even more often than that. So if I don't do it now, people will contact me and be like, where's your race report? We haven't seen it online yet.
Okay, that is amazing. I want to make a point about that, but just going back to once or twice a week is phenomenal, and at least once every 2 weeks. So that gives a lot of space and room for people. And we will talk about this, what you just said. People ask you, where's your report? Seth Godin, a famous marketing guy, always says, would people miss you if you didn't show up? And you have just proven that they do. So you actually are doing, your marketing is really, really spot on. So why don't you tell us a little bit, since you mentioned the Formula One, and we have the famous Max Verstappen, the Dutch driver, and you see the cars behind her there. Tell us why Formula One, and what does that have to do with the brain?
This is a really, for me, a really almost unbelievable story. But back when I was still working in that first job that I got in business, when I left academia, I was studying company culture. And I had found out that the main thing that people are struggling with in culture is constant change and very high pressure. People are stressed all the time, and they constantly have to adapt because the world around them is changing so much. So when I figured that out, my scientist brain kicked in, and I was like, if I really want to help people, I kind of need to study an environment in which change and pressure are like dominant. They're constant. And I've been a fan of Formula One since I was a little kid.
Okay.
So just as a joke, I told my boss, you know what I should do? I should study Formula One teams. And then we both laughed because it's like the most secretive world you can imagine. It's just impossible to get in.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it is. There's you have to sign an NDA to get past reception. And that makes sense because those teams will do anything to get information on each other's cars.
That's true. Okay.
Absolutely. So, and I had no contacts, but I told you the keynotes. Keynotes and saying yes to coffees are a big thing in my life because I just started talking about that. I just started talking whenever I had a keynote. I said, you know what we should really do? I should study Formula One. That would be the best. And people were like, oh, that sounds like fun. But then I had a keynote in the UK where 80% of all the F1 factories are. And again, I kept talking about it. And then I happened to have someone in the crowd who had contacts. And he called me and he was like, so I host this executive roundtable series at the Monaco Grand Prix every year. Would you like to come over? I was like,
oh, just
okay.
a minute.
Oh, yeah, I'll come over and spend a weekend on a yacht.
Okay.
So that's what happened. And then again, I spoke about wanting to study F1, and there were lots of people there, obviously, with contacts. So I kind of organically networked my way into studying Formula One teams for 3 years. And ever since, Formula One has been this big thing in my life. A lot of the knowledge that I have revolves around everything that I've learned from speaking to people on Formula One teams. And I do a lot of things around high performance culture. And obviously Formula One is not just a great place to study it, but it's also a great metaphor. So I use it in my keynotes. It speaks to people. As you said, Max Verstappen in the Netherlands is incredibly popular. I'm not necessarily a big Max Verstappen fan. He's a fantastic driver. Personality-wise, I sort of lean towards different drivers, but that's all right. But the metaphor works, and it's become part of my non-existent marketing strategy.
Well, this is what's so funny to me, because the more you talk, the more I'm like, your marketing strategy is so brilliant. Even if you have never identified it or thought about it, it's just genius. I mean, speaking out into the world what it is you want, and then attracting these people, and then getting this invitation, that is pure brilliance. And also, it's a way to take something that could be perceived as maybe not boring, but complicated or hard to understand, which you're very good at translating, and making it fun. Formula One race car driving, and it's also unexpected. So you're like, it makes you say, what? And which makes it more memorable, which makes it easier to, incorporate these lessons. So it's just absolutely brilliant.
And I'm not going to lie, the fact that I am a woman of color and I love Formula One, those two things, that unexpectedness of it also helps. It just does. Yeah.
So people are like, well, wait, how does this work? And then they're more interested and they want to know more.
Well, no, the first thing they want to do is test me, especially
men.
Yeah, like, so do you know what DRS is?
Yeah, they're like the car, the wheel. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant. Not brilliant that people want to test you, because that's annoying. And I can imagine.
Fine. It's fine. I mean, I love talking about Formula One. So if that's what I have to do, I mean, it triggers their interest. And I always have the answers, because I really do know almost all there is to know about Formula One. So I'm happy to answer their questions, and that triggers their interest in it. So yeah.
Okay. So key lesson here, if there's something you're passionate about, even if you think it possibly is not related to your business, no matter what business you are in, this is a perfect example that brain science and Formula One that you may not have thought of. So whatever it is that you're passionate about, try to incorporate that into your business and see what kind of connections you can make. Yeah. Another thing you said was, all these coffees you're having, you're open to people saying, hey, should we meet, have a conversation? Now, I've talked about and written blog posts about, you can't say yes to everyone, because then you don't have time to do all your business. So you have to be a little bit discerning about it. But when you're in the exploration phase and you're trying to meet new people and make new connections, it's a smart move. So hats off for that.
Yeah, and you're right about that one, because it has changed. Like right now, I'm at a part of my career where I do say no. I have to, because my schedule is always full, and I could be in meetings 24 hours a day, drinking coffees and if I wanted to, but there's no time for that anymore. So I'm a little bit more critical of who I sit down with now. It's like, do you just want to pick my brain, or is there like a mutual thing going on? But in the beginning, like the reason I got my first job, I said it was because I had coffee with someone, but there's actually a story behind that. When I won that science communication competition, there was a little bit of media attention to it, because it was, they aired it on TV that year. So there was this radio station in Leiden in the Netherlands, in a specific area of Leiden, a very tiny area. I think this radio station had 3 listeners.
Okay.
But they asked, it's more than nothing. So they asked me to come over. And this was at the time where I had no contacts, no idea, nothing. So I said, sure, I'll come and I'll talk about who I am and what I do. One of those 3 listeners was a friend of the guy who I ended up working for. So it's that openness.
That's how it works. Yeah. That is really how it works. That's amazing. One more non-strategy that you have used, and we talked a little bit about, is referrals and or word of mouth. Can you say more about how that has worked for you?
Yeah, so I will do assignments with companies, and then the people who work at those companies go to other companies, and then they're like, so when I was at that company, I worked with you, and now we have something here. Can you come do that here as well? So there's a lot of word of mouth from people just spreading their wings and going different places that has helped me to get, assignments and keynotes and all of that, training programs with different companies, just because I happened to do a keynote for someone or do a session for someone when they were at a different company. So just
Okay, and they do that all on their own. They just spontaneously. You're not as specifically asking them for a referral.
I
for
should.
example.
I should.
Well, you know what I'm going to say. Yes, you should. But all these, this is why it's such a great strategy. If it's working this well without even asking, imagine what would happen if you actually asked.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I've learned a lot from you already. We had a pre-talk, obviously. I've learned so much already, and you're kind of confirming that I need to. I think it would definitely help me if I put a little bit more effort into consciously being like, okay, so I did this. This went well. Let's see if they can give me it, because I don't have any on my LinkedIn. I don't have any on my website. So yes,
Okay.
it's all been from there, like proactively from their side so far. So I could do better by asking them for it.
Well, and I will say one major point, which is it's amazing that they have all been proactive, which means you're just doing a phenomenal job. So if you just, whatever your work is in your business, if you do a really good job, people are going to talk about it and tell other people. And the flip side, yes, it's really great to have testimonials on your website, on your LinkedIn profile. Very powerful. And then one last point about it is people actually are usually really willing to help you. They just aren't thinking about it. So if you just say, hey, we did that project together and it went so well, do you know someone? They'll be like, oh yeah, actually I do. It's just, we're all so busy thinking about ourselves. So most of the time, 99% of the time, people are so willing to help. So it's not as painful as people think.
No, you're absolutely right. And the part that you're also right about is I am obsessive about the quality of the work that I do.
Okay.
Not in an unhealthy way. I think for me, it's in a healthy way. And the only reason I can be so obsessive about the quality is because I truly love what I do. I could not have my own company and do what I do if I didn't absolutely love it, because it's a lot of work.
That's a great point. And so much of the reason why we all are doing the work we're doing is because we love it so much.
Yeah.
And that's our why, no matter how hard it gets or difficult. If you go back to that why am I doing this? And you think about the reason and the outcome that you're hoping to have.
Yeah. Make sure that that's the main reason you're doing it, and not fame or fortune or any of that, because that's not going to keep you going. Like, just to give you a little bit of brain insights, we're dopamine machines, and fame or money give you very short dopamine boost that will work for a little while. But what works in the long run is intrinsic motivation. So a dopamine boost that comes just because you wake up in the morning and you think, oh, I get to do the thing that I love again.
Powerful, powerful. Love it. Okay, so just to recap, Dr. Marcia has been marketing, she just didn't know it, with her networking, being visible, getting on stages, which she loves and she's really good at, talking with people, putting her intentions out into the world, at a certain point making the leap, and then now continuing to get business because she's doing such an excellent job. And then in the future, we'll be asking for referrals, most likely.
I shall, yes.
So thank you so much for sharing all of your insights. If you want to find out more about what she's up to, we're going to put her LinkedIn profile in the notes. Do you want to say something about the other work you're doing?
Yeah, so I have my own company, Brain Matters Consulting, but actually the one thing that I'm most passionate about at the moment is a nonprofit called Contentment for Business. And with Contentment for Business, we're helping mid-sized and large organizations all over the world with challenges related to mental health and well-being and DEI and high performance culture. And all the profits from the work that we do there go to our school program for the Contentment Foundation, which is the bigger foundation. And that school program is we bring our school curriculum around well-being to at-risk communities all over the world, and we use the money for Contentment for Business to fund that. So this is something, when you talk about passion, that is the one thing right now that I'm so passionate about. I'm not a salesperson, but I will happily sell this to anyone who will listen, because it's worth it. We're making the world a better place. So anyone who would like to contribute, definitely get in touch.
I love that. And one last point you just made that you didn't know you made is we're all always selling all the time, even if it's not something for your own monetary value. You're selling the idea and the concept of helping other people, which is really beautiful. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And have fun on your vacation.
I will.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for listening and watching, and we will catch you next time.